Let's do a quick overview of the TB-3, which is probably the unit that gets least mentioned in the ARIA. Well, maybe the VT1. But the TB-3 is a great little unit. Syncs up with the TR8 and the MX1. But I don't think I've done an overview of what this unit actually looks like. So here goes. So starting with the rear of the unit. Again, Roland have done what they've done on the other ARIA piece of equipment. They've got this lock-in, Kensington lock-in arrangement, which I think is brilliant. I think they should introduce this on more keyboards, even the bigger stuff, because it's so easy for this stuff to go missing when you're in a venue. Then we've got the phone socket for a standard set of headphones and a left and right out. The unit is configured so that it comes out in stereo by default. However, there are scenarios where you might have to take a mono feed out. So that's pretty good. It also works seamlessly by using the YOG ZINs on the TR8, which I've seen configured up quite a lot in the promotional videos before I bought this. I've never configured mine that way, but it's the way it works. So then if we move the unit along a bit, we then have the MIDI in and out. Again, like all the instruments in the ARIA range, Roland have only put 2 sockets here. The in is what it says, it's an in, and the out is effectively an out from the unit, although I'm not quite sure why you'd use an out on this unit. You probably would reconfigure this to be a through and take whatever's coming in on the in through the out. Then moving across, we then have a standard 12 volt power, which is a DC power socket, on-off switch, and a USB port for interfacing with the computer or an MX1. And that's the back panel. So moving on to the front of the unit, start with the beat indicators. So you start and stop using the start-stop button like so. It runs through a pattern of 16 beats, as you can see. So at 4/4 time, it's effectively 4 bars, and it repeats. You can stop it independently from here. It's worthwhile noting that if you have a TR8 or an MX1 in the mix and they have the master clock, by pressing the start-stop on that unit, it will start-stop this unit. You can independently switch it off or restart it from this unit. We next move on to a bank of 5 pots. The first one is the volume pot. Doesn't need any further airtime. It's the master volume that comes off the unit. Then you've got 1, 2, 3 pots here, which are all to do with the cut-off of the sound, the resonance of the sound, the accent on that sound. You need to play with these on the tone that you select in order to find something you like. You can have some fairly crazy sort of sounds coming off just by moving these pots around. And the last of this bank of 5 pots is this effect pot. Now, I've not been able to work out how you actually set the effect. It seems to be automatically set based on the sound that you've selected, and this is basically puts more of the effect into the mix and takes more of the effect out of the mix by moving it from right to left. So that's that pot there. Then we move on to this button here, which is tempo. If you press the tempo button, you'll notice that in the display here, it displays the tempo, currently set at 111 for this unit. By using the value pot, you can raise and lower the tempo like so, and then once you've set the tempo, just unlatch the button. Personally, if you've got a TR8 or an MX1 in your mix, this unit will take the clock from one of those. Therefore, setting the tempo independently on the unit is a complete waste of time. But that's how you do it if you have to do it. We next move on to the sound, and as you can see, by default, this unit says what sound it's on. So this is sound C10. And by using the value pot, you can move that up and through, so they're through into the Ds. D17 is the top, and moving all the way back down through to A. And then there's a bunch of user settings, so there's a bunch of user sounds down there as well. So far in my playing with this, I've not been able to make the unit permanently save the user sound. I don't know why, but I haven't been able to make it do that at the moment. There is a procedure for actually setting the user sounds, but I can't make the unit actually retain them once you switch the unit off. We then move down onto the lower rack of buttons, and obviously the keyboard one comes on by default, and you get a standard 1-octave keyboard. Okay, so on here you can press individual notes, and you'll get the relevant tone for that note come out of the outputs. This is how you would do a manual step pattern for a particular tone. You can move it up an octave by pressing and down an octave by pressing the relevant green buttons at either side of the keyboard, like so. And you know whether you're up an octave or you're down an octave because of the way it's flashing. So this is flashing to indicate I'm up 2 octaves. Take it down 1 octave, take it down to the bass position. We then move on to X and Y play, and this really you have to play with to understand how it works. When the unit is running, by using your finger, you can move your finger up and down the keyboard like so, and it will change the pitch of the sound that is playing relevant to where you have your finger selected on the keyboard. By using the upper portion of the keyboard, you can change the sound, the loudness of the sound. The envelope modulation button is all about how the sound is crafted in terms of how does the envelope decay. So this is really sort of a synthesis piece. And again, by using your finger on here, you can change how that envelope is set. And it's one of those things where you really have to use your finger and play with it. Pressing the pattern select button allows you to access the pre-configured patterns on the unit. And you do that by selecting the pattern select, and then there are a number of presets there, like so, moving up using the green buttons, so 3, 4, 4.5, 4.3, 5, 6, etc. You can also use the value pot to move backwards and forwards, much quicker. We then come on to the scatter button. So the scatter button on here will invoke the scatter mode, which is a variation of the pattern that's playing. And effectively you use the value pot here to select 1 through 8. It's a latched mode, which means that when you actually invoke it and press scatter, it will latch it. And when you come out of scatter, you have to go back to keyboard. The final 2 buttons are these 2 here, which is step record and real-time record. And they are exactly what it says on the side of the tin. If you press step record, it's expecting you to put a pattern in. And effectively, as you can see, as I'm tapping the keys here, it's moving through the beats associated with it. So therefore, it's recording the step. Real-time record, on the other hand, is expecting you to have the unit running with a tempo, and then effectively it will record your taps on the keyboard and the length of time those taps happen, and associate that with the pattern that's running. There you go. So there you have a quick overview of the TB-3, ready to put into your production environment and see what sound you get out.